Hello everyone. As you may have heard, the BC NDP just passed a new law or new legislation that is going to severely impact the ability of people living in British Columbia to be able to access information from their government. And as someone who's really worked quite hard to access information and show the facts of how the government has manipulated ICBC rates and really used rural British Columbians as a cash cow for their bank account and for the people in the cities, it's quite frustrating for me. So I thought I'd just share quickly an example of how this new legislation really affects us directly. So as some people are aware, my activism on the ICBC rate issue started a couple of years back when I realized that there was a real disparity through the publicly published information that ICBC had, but it didn't have detail. So I approached ICBC and I asked for them to provide me with the information on premiums and claim settlements, and they refused to provide that information out front. And so they pushed me into the Freedom of Information cycle, and I think they knew that by doing so, or they thought that by doing so that would be the end of it, because they knew that the price tag for me to access that information alone would be more than I would probably pay, and realistically it likely would have been in the hundreds if not thousands of dollars. However, there were enough people in our region and in rural BC who agreed with me that this was a major issue and something that they wanted to get the information on and to establish whether there was something that was unfair about it. And so I was able to recruit a large number of people, dozens of people, who agreed and volunteered to individually make small Freedom of Information requests that would be under the 3-hour threshold to be able to get the information that ICBC was refusing to give. And this is what these FOI reports really look like and what we got from ICBC. And the reality is that with BC now bringing in legislation that, first of all, will cost people money to be able to access free information is highly problematic. And in a situation like this, really my research and my objective of finding out what was really going on with ICBC really would have been dead in the water, because what we're talking about here is over $1,000 worth of Freedom of Information requests. And I don't believe that the people who agreed to do this would have also said, yeah, and we'll also pay $25 to the government for that information. So it's really problematic to me that now going forward, anytime someone wants to get information from the government that they're refusing to put out, we're going to have to pay money. And NDP has really said, look at how transparent we are, so people really shouldn't need to use it very often. And even our own MLA spoke to this in the legislature a couple of weeks back. The irony is that MLA Cullen, when he was standing up in the legislature saying how transparent the NDP was and how forthcoming they were with information, and for the record, Nathan Cullen did vote in favor of this new bill to really gut our Freedom of Information Act. Only 2 days before that, I received an email from Nathan Cullen's office basically saying that they weren't going to provide any information on correspondence between his office and Minister Farnworth or ICBC because they weren't subject to the Freedom of Information legislation. And that's really troubling. Another change in this beyond charging people for information is that the Premier's office now is going to be exempt. So we won't be able to request information on communications or things coming or going from the Premier's office. And additionally, this fee is not waivable. So previously, in the case of information requests that were in the interest of the greater public, the Information Commissioner had the leverage and the authority to waive fees. And that's no longer the case. So he cannot waive this $25 proposed fee by the NDP for people seeking information. And honestly, it's going to really suppress a lot of the people who most need to access the information, because usually people that are doing FOI requests are people that are actually being treated unfairly or unjustly by the government, and they want to get background information on what's going on. And a lot of those people don't have the financial resources to throw $25 at every information request that they make. So I hope that people stand up and let Nathan Cullen know and let the NDP government know that they are absolutely opposed to this change to our freedom of information legislation. And to be honest with you, it's moves like this that really make me fear for the health of our democracy and our governance. And again, it's not specifically an attack on the NDP. I know that the Liberals before the NDP had pulled many of the same tricks. It's just especially disappointing because the NDP is the party that actually brought in some decent freedom of information legislation in the first place, which really was something that I think they should have been proud of. But instead, here, now that they have a majority government and that they have secrets to hide and things that they don't want people to learn about, they're taking this step to really suppress democracy again and suppress people's ability to know and learn about what their government is doing. So yeah, sad day for British Columbia democracy for sure. Thanks for listening.